Hello everyone, welcome back to Believers IAS Academy Bengaluru. This is everyday news analysis session, and in today we are going to discuss some 6 to 7 articles important from UPSC prelims as well as mains perspective. So without any delay, we'll start the session. The first article, it is from the Hindu newspaper. The article reads, it is an editorial. It says, a good beginning, but China negotiations must continue. Okay, it talks about the recent negotiation between India and China. The author here is Ashok M. Kanta, who is a former ambassador to India and China. So the editorial becomes very important. So there might be some important points, key takeaways which are important from mains perspective especially. So take your notes, note the important parts which I'm going to tell you now. So I have analyzed the issue, editorial, and I've taken some summary and key points here. So I'll be discussing those. So the statement, the article reads about the statement by Union External Minister S. Jaishankar on December 3, 2024 marks a significant update on India-China relations post the Chinese intrusions in eastern Ladakh in 2020. While the statement provides some clarity on troops disengagement and bilateral ties, it leaves several critical questions unanswered. Okay, so we'll discuss what are the key questions which have been unanswered and what are the key issues which have been discussed. So what are the key takeaways from the minister's statement? The key takeaways is it talked about troop disengagement and current status. The minister highlighted amassing Chinese troops in 2020 and India's counter deployment leading to protracted negotiations that achieved disengagement at a certain friction points. During 2020, there were clashes between India and Chinese troops in Galwan Valley, in Dhokla Valley, etc. So there were many of Chinese troops which are always in conflict with Indian troops. So because of this engagement, because of this negotiation, they have because of these negotiations, they have resulted in disengagement at certain friction points. So it is a good outcome. Terms like steps of temporary and limited nature were used to describe the current arrangement, implying the situation can be revisited if conditions demand. So they said that we are not going to completely resolve the issue now only because this requires a futuristic perspective. So they said that terms were steps of temporary and limited natures were used, meaning we will be getting back to the issue again in the future. And then about peace and tranquility as prerequisites. Jaishankar reiterated India's position that peace in the border area is essential for developing bilateral ties. So you need peace in the border area. Only then we can focus on bilateral ties. Despite disengagement, a large-scale troop deployments continue and the border areas remain far from normalcy. Okay, despite there has been disengagement from the clash points, that doesn't mean troops are not being amassed by the both countries. Both countries are deploying large number of troops. Okay, so in future it results in a kind of tense situation. Then cautious outlook on bilateral relations. Minister said Minister dismissed any notion of quick reset in India-China ties, emphasizing that as long as the border situations remains abnormal, structural changes will persist. Okay, he said that there cannot be any quick reset in the India-China relations because you need to focus on border situations first, and only then we can move forward towards bilateral issues. He criticized the view of integrating with Chinese supply chains, cautioning against China's economic dependencies weaponization. Okay, many of the international relations or political leaders, they say that we should keep the border disputes between China aside, and we should focus on engaging with China on other issues. Okay, on other sectors such as Chinese, like integrating with Chinese supply chains. Okay, if we are going to integrate with Chinese supply chains, then it is going to create employment, it is going to improve GDP, etc. But S. Jaishankar said that we cannot focus on integrating with Chinese supply as long as we are in a border situation where it is abnormal. He said that if we are integrating with Chinese supply chains, there is a situation which can result in economic dependence of Chinese weapons. Okay, and then there are some unanswered questions. What are the unanswered questions? There is incomplete clarity on disengagement terms. Okay, what are the incomplete clarity? The statement leaves critical questions unanswered. What are the critical questions? Will Indian troops regain access to traditional patrolling points in the areas like Depsam Plains and Hemok, which were previously patrolled by India? which are under control of Pakistan, like sorry, China now. What are the specifics of coordinated patrolling and the restrictions on patrolling activities? So presently there is a arrangement called as coordinated patrolling, where both the border armies of both the countries are patrolling the borders. So that is no complete definition of coordinated patrolling. So that question also remains unanswered. And then how many traditional patrolling points remain inaccessible due to temporary arrangements? Okay, these are the questions that have been unanswered. And S. Jaishankar on the status quo along the LAC. What is LAC? That is line of actual control. It is a demarcation line between India and China. According to this line, the Ladakh region, okay, northeastern like region of Ladakh region, which we call as Ladakh, which Chinese call as Aksai Chin. It belongs to China right now. Okay, despite affirming that the India will not tolerate unilateral changes, it is unclear whether China's actions since April 20 have altered the status quo. Okay, and then the concept of buffer zones and restrictions in disputed areas like Galwan Valley, Pangong Lake could have territorial implications for India. Okay, even though there is status quo according to LAC agreement, but the actions of China says otherwise. Okay, China's troops are like moving at alarming rate. Chinese troops are crossing the border and coming into India. So it is one other way. It is breaking the status quo status. Okay, and then Chinese patrolling and tactical gains. Say that reports suggest that Chinese troops may have granted patrolling rights in the contentious areas like Yangtze in Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, so Chinese troops are also gaining foothold in Yangtze region in Arunachal Pradesh. And then the lack of clarity around whether India achieved quid pro quo in the eastern sector raises concerns. Okay, we are not sure whether India is on the rise or India has a upper hand in the eastern region or eastern sector, or whether China has upper hand in the sector. So this also remains to be answered. And then restoration of status quo ante, that is the chief of army staff and other officials have reiterated the goal of returning to the status quo of April 2020. Okay, what was the status before April 20? We should go back to status quo ante, that is going back to the status which was present before 2020 April. But the Ministry of External Affairs has been silent on this point. Allowing China's incremental territorial gains could validate their grey zone strategy, which operates below the threshold of outright conflict. Okay, what is the strategy of China? Like they are going to deploy the troops, they are going to gain incremental gains in the particular borders. Okay, and after that they are going to have some clashes with the army, in the Indian army. And when you want to disengage the Indian army, you are going to have a ceasefire, you are going to have an agreement. Okay, after that agreement, what are the gains the Chinese have made? They are not willing to withdraw from it. Okay, on the outward, okay, if you see from the outside of you, you think that because of the agreement the status quo has been restored, meaning China have created from the previous borders. Okay, China have disengaged from the particular area, but it is not been in the reality since, because Chinese, after gaining the area, they are retaining that particular area, so they are gaining incremental gains in the border issues. Okay, so what are the strategic implications and what are the recommendations provided under this editorial? That is, first and foremost point should be the restoration of status quo ante. India should prioritize on termination of buffer zones and insist on restoring status quo ante for patrolling and grazing activities a high priority. We should focus on maintaining the status quo. Then negotiation tactics and transparency. The negotiations, there should be a greater transparency in the government's handling of the border issue, with opposition refraining from politicizing sensitive national security matters. So the other calls for restraint from both sides of the government. The government should be transparent in the dealing, and the opposition should restrain itself from criticizing the sensitive issues. Then a collaborative approach, as seen during the past agreements like 1996 confidence building measures, could help build bipartisan consensus. Okay, we can also build bipartisan consensus through these kind of agreements. Then okay, and then we should avoid economic dependencies, meaning any move towards the integration of Chinese supply chains should be critically evaluated, so that We do not result in economic dependency of Chinese, considering China's track record of using economic leverage strategically. Okay, so all these things should be taken into consideration before we move into agreements within China. The conclusion says that it should emphasize the need for persistent negotiations with China to address unresolved issues while avoiding unilateral concessions. The restoration of status quo ante remains a critical goal, and achieving a national consensus on this sensitive matter will strengthen India's position in the ongoing border disputes. Okay, so these are the issues which have been discussed in this editorial. Very important, especially from mains perspective. Certain key points you can use it in your answer. And then second article or second editorial, it is from the Hindu only. It talks about the issue of economic growth versus emissions. It is the article or editorial dealing with age-old debate between development versus environment. So we will see what the article is discussing about. Okay, first, so according to article, India has showcased robust economic growth in recent decades, raising concerns about the environmental impact. According to Economic Survey 2024, suggests India has decoupled GDP growth from greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, between 2005 to 2019, GDP grew at a compounded annual growth rate of 7%, while emissions grew at 4%. However, this raises questions about the nature of decoupling and its implications for sustainable government, sustainable development. We'll understand what is decoupling, and we'll understand what are the various issues which have been addressed in this article. So, what is decoupling? Decoupling is, it refers to reducing economic connections between the economic growth and environmental harm. Okay, there are two types, that is absolute decoupling and relative decoupling. What is absolute decoupling? GDP grows while emission decreases. That is absolute decoupling. And relative decoupling, both GDP and emissions grow, but GDP grows faster than emissions. Presently, what India is experiencing is relative decoupling, because GDP is growing at a 7% rate, whereas emissions is growing at only 4% rate. So there is a relative decoupling in India, and India has achieved relative decoupling, indicating progress though emissions continue to rise. Decoupling offers a way to balance economic growth and improve living standards and mitigate climate change. Okay, take your notes, write about decoupling. What is economic decoupling? Okay, decoupling is connections between economic growth and emissions growth. Absolute is GDP grows, therefore emissions reduces. Relative is GDP and emissions both grow, but GDP grows at a faster rate compared to emissions. Okay, so that is decoupling. Then, so what is India's decoupling claim? So the author tries to argue about India's decoupling claim here. Economic Survey highlights economy-wide relative decoupling with GDP growth at 7% and emission growth at 4%, meaning GDP growth is outpacing emissions growth since 1990. The key observations made by the author is GDP has grown six-fold since 1990, while the emissions have tripled. Okay, decoupling varies by sector, with agriculture and manufacturing being major emitters. Absolute decoupling has not yet been achieved. This is okay, as long as we are a developing country, achieving absolute decoupling is very hard. So what are the efforts that have been made in this regard, and what are the efforts that should continue? India's relative decoupling is a positive step, but absolute decoupling with emissions decline with the GDP growth is a long-term challenge. India's emissions as a developing nations are expected to rise with economic activity. What are the key measures to achieve this sustainable growth? First one is adopting renewable energy, strengthening emission mitigation policies, and promoting sustainable development practices. Okay, India is doing all this under Panchamitra. Okay, Panchamitra. What is Panchamitra? These are certain nationally determined contributions of India under Paris Climate Agreement. Initially there were 3 NDCs. Okay, now there have been 5 NDCs. These 5 NDCs together are called as Panchamitra. In these 5 NDCs, there is about adopting renewable energy, that is increasing the renewable energy capacity from 50%, from 40% to 50% by 2030, and reducing emission mitigation, meaning reducing the emission from 33% was the 33% of GDP in the initial NDCs. Now it is about 50%, and promoting sustainable development practices, It is also promoting net like emission neutrality or carbon neutrality by 2070. Okay, so these are the ways, or these are the measures how India is trying to achieve absolute decoupling. So this is enough from the particular article. They have gone on providing certain data, etc., etc. That data, it is not very important from us, but these points are very important. Decoupling issues and how we are to achieve this decoupling. So India's relative decoupling reflects progress, but achieving absolute decoupling is essential for its long-term climate goal, that is to achieve NDCs. So there it needs continued efforts to balance economic growth and environmental preservation will ensure prospective and sustainable future. Okay. Now moving to the third article. So this was an editorial which was present in the Hindu again. The article is about death by water. Okay, look at the heading, death by water. Such a beautiful heading. So the article tries to talk about governments need to ensure the safety of piped water along the widening of its coverage. Okay, so we know that under Ministry of Jal Shakti and Mission Jal Shakti or Jal Jeevan Mission. Jal Jeevan Mission, what you have done is we have provided piped water services to many of the households. Okay, we are trying to widen the coverage of piped water. But this article is focusing on another aspect of Ministry of Jal Shakti. Mission Jal Jeevan. That aspect is about the safety of piped water. Okay, you are providing piped water, but what is the quality of that piped water? Whether it is clean or whether it is nutritious or whether it is bad and whether it is contained with diseases. Okay, so this article deals about this aspect of the piped water. So we'll see the importance of these articles. So it tries to explain the recent incidences which say that there is death by water. So the recent incidents are the death of 3 people and hospitalization of 34 others in Chennai due to suspected contamination of piped water emphasizes the need for safety in water supply, not just expanded coverage. Take this down. You can use this as an example in your answers. And then the incident occurred in Pallavaram, and while lab reports are awaited, State Minister T.M. Ambarasan remarks blaming the residents' hygiene appears insensitive. Okay, so the minister is there. So State Minister, he blamed the residents who are present there. He blamed the residential hygiene appearance. Okay, residents' hygiene. He said that because of your hygiene, the water has been contaminated, and it is not because of our fault. It is because of your own fault that you have been hospitalized. So that is very insensitive. You are not a minister. You should not be talking. Being a minister, you should not talk indulge in such kind of talks. And then frequent contamination incidents in cities like Bengaluru, Kochi, and Noida expose the growing strain on urban water and drainage infrastructure. Okay, and then so what are the challenges of drinking water? India, being a tropical country, faces unique challenges in the sense arsenic in groundwater across 230 districts in 25 states. Okay, arsenic is a pollutant which is present in 230 districts in 25 states. Fluoride contamination in 469 districts in 27 states. Okay, these are some of the pollutants which will result in health implications. Okay, health implications. If you are consuming arsenic, it is going to result in arsenocosis. What is arsenocosis? It is going to yellowish, it is going to turn your teeth into yellow. It is going to impact your bones. It is going to impact your joints. And fluoride contamination, it is going to result in fluorosis, and it is similar to arsenic only. It is going to have impact on your joints, bones, etc., etc. Then, according to World Health Organization, it estimated that 1.7 people globally use water contaminated with feces. What is feces? Human waste. Okay, human waste, causing 1 million annual deaths due to unsafe water, sanitation, and hygiene. Then you can write down this data. You can use in your answers. The right to safe water, according to United Nations General Assembly, recognized access to water and sanitation as a human right. Okay, again a very beautiful point. You can use in your answers. You can use this in essay. You can use this in your ethics paper also. Then addressing chemical pollution in groundwater and ensuring potable piped water are essential steps toward fulfilling these rights. So in order to achieve the access to water and sanitation as a human right, what we need is reducing the chemical pollution of groundwater and ensuring the potable piped water. And what should be the commitments? and what should be the way forward. So in Tamil Nadu, Chief Minister M.K. Stalin's 10-year vision included increasing annual per capita water supply from 9 lakh liters to 10 lakh liters, reducing water wastage from 50 to 15%, boosting recycled water distribution from 5 to 20%. Okay, these are very like good initiatives which cover a long-term impact. Okay, however, translating these goals into action. Okay, these are very beautiful. These are very useful in the paper, but the problem arises when it is to part of implementation. So, translating these goals into action, that is implementation, particularly ensuring safe water, is critical to prevent tragedies like Pallavaram. Okay, and then conclusion is that ensuring safety or safe drinking water requires governments to prioritize quality alongside access. Okay, not just access but also quality. The growing population in urban alongside urban congestion demands robust water management and effective sanitation system to safeguard public health. Okay, write down key points in this article. Then there is another editorial in the Hindu. It dealt with gamify India's skilling initiatives. It dealt about what are the skilling initiatives in India, what are the issues, and what should be the way forward. Okay, we'll try to understand what is gamifying also. So, what are the challenges which are present in India's skilling initiatives? The India skilling challenges: India needs 78.5 lakh jobs annually in the non-farm sector until 2030 to meet workforce demands. This is as per economic survey of 2020-24. Okay, you need 78.5 lakh jobs in non-farm sector. And then, despite the established policies and institutional frameworks, skilling outcomes remains limited. Okay, data is only 20% of the youth, that is between 15 to 29 years, received vocational training in 2022. Only 20%. That is very meager. Compare this to South Korea, where there is almost 96% institutional skilling of youth. Okay, there is 96%, India only 14%, 20%. And 51% of the graduates are employable as per the Chief Economic Advisor. Meaning, out of 100% of the graduates, 49% are unemployable. What is unemployable? Unemployable in the sense they have graduation, they have degree, but they don't have the requisite skill. Okay, skill is not there, so they are not employable according to Chief Economic Advisor. This is very alarming. The gap between industry needs and the available skills, particularly for Industry 4.0, poses a significant hurdle. Okay, what the industry needs and what we are providing, there is a wide gap, so it should be addressed. Then, so what is the need for Industry 4.0 skills? Industry 4.0 demands digital and technical skills such as AI, Internet of Things, and big data. So these are the like Industry 4.0. Okay, only 1.5% of engineers possess skills of new age jobs, and 60% of MSME workers lack digital competencies, highlighting the urgency to upskill. Okay, so we are still lagging behind skilling. Okay, what happened with India was we are focusing on skilling with the Industry 3.0. By the time you are efficient in Industry 3.0 skilling, the economy moved towards Industry 4.0. Okay, Industry 4.0. Now we are focusing on skilling the people with Industry 4.0. Who knows, the economy is going to move towards Industry 5.0 in coming days. Okay, then we have to skill. So we are always, there is a lag between economy or the technology and the skills we possess. So now the time is to address the gap. Okay, time is to bridge the gap. So for bridging the gap, there is a new initiative, that is gamification. So gamification is a new initiative. We'll understand what is gamification. So gamified and simulation based learning, it offers a transformative approach. So it uses real world scenarios to simulate professional situations, helping trainees practice and apply skills effectively. It is like you are developing skills. How you are developing skills? You are developing skills by playing a game. What is the game here? In the game, there are real life or real world scenarios. Okay, real world scenarios, and you are made to solve these real world scenarios by your skills. So in order to solve these scenarios, you are going to develop skills. How you are going to develop skills? Skills are being developed based on games. So here there will be features like leaderboards, rewards, and feedback, enhance engagement, motivation, and performance. You might have seen the games. Okay, if for example, if you are playing Candy Crush game, in the Candy Crush game. If you see the leaderboards, it provides like you are the like you stand at 106th rank, etc., etc. It kind of provides motivation to provide more, you perform better. So if you are performing better, obviously you are going to develop skills also here. Facilities, it facilitates critical thinking, problem solving, and practical skills applications. Okay, so what are the existing platforms for gamification? The platforms are like Swayam and Siddh have been pivotal. Okay, the Swayam has 4,000 plus courses enrolling 40 million learners with 93.4% completions in engineering and physical sciences. Okay, and Siddh's digital content repository reaches 7.37 lakh minutes of use, demonstrating a strong demand for skill-based education. Okay, Swayam is a platform, Siddh is a platform, wherein Swayam there are 4,000 plus courses, whereas Siddh there is a digital content provided, and it has been used by like the total 7.37 lakhs minutes of use has been done. Okay, so meaning there is a improvement in these things. Okay, but there is also we need to focus more on gamification of the skills. So the conclusion says that according to other, integrating gamification and simulation based learning into skilling programs. This word gamification and simulation based learning becomes very important. If there is a question in UPSC GS3 or GS2 regarding the skills, regarding the economy, etc., etc., make it a habit of writing these kind of points. Okay, gamification, it is going to add extra value to your answers. Okay, many of the people don't know what is gamification. Many of the people might have not heard about gamification or simulation based learning. If you are the only person who are going to write about gamification and simulation based learning, you are going to get that extra half or 1 mark. Okay, so now by focusing on interactive and practical training, India can ensure or prepare a workforce aligned with demands of Industry 4.0, ensuring employability and economic growth. Okay. Now moving to Article 5. There was an article in Business Standard. It dealt with Polavaram project controversy. So we'll see what is Polavaram project controversy. It is in news because the Biju Janata Dal BJD of Odisha has restarted its protest against the Polavaram multi-purpose project in Andhra Pradesh, claiming it will flood large areas of Malkangiri, Odisha, displacing many tribal communities. So the project is being carried out by Andhra Pradesh, but it is affecting people of Odisha, especially people of Malkangiri. Malkangiri is a place in Odisha where it is a home to many of the tribals. Okay, so they have started the protest against the Polavaram project. So Polavaram project, it is a river linking project between Godavari, West Godavari and Krishna river. Okay, so they are trying to link Krishna river with the Godavari river. Okay, so this is the East Godavari, this is the West Godavari, and this is Krishna river. So they are trying to link Krishna river to river linking project between Krishna and Godavari river. If you are doing this Krishna and Polavaram project or Krishna Godavari river linking project, it is going to flood this area. Okay, so you can see Andhra Pradesh shares a border with Odisha and Chhattisgarh. This part, this tributary will be flooded, and it is going to flood the Malkangiri regions of Odisha and Chhattisgarh. So that is the issue. Okay, so just remember Polavaram is related to Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Telangana and Odisha, and the rivers are West Godavari and Krishna. It is a river linking project between Godavari and Krishna. Then, so there was a tribunal, that is Godavari Water Tribunal Dispute or Godavari Water Dispute Tribunal in 1969. So according to this, Godavari Water Dispute Tribunal was established to resolve the dispute between Godavari river water among the states of Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and now Chhattisgarh. Okay, it made several key recommendations regarding the utilization. According to this, water allocation is the tribunal allowed Andhra Pradesh to divert 80 TMC, that is 1000 million cubic feet of Godavari water at 75% dependability for irrigation and other uses. So Andhra Pradesh got a major share, which could also substitute release from Nagarjuna Sagar project for the Krishna, okay, for the Krishna Delta. Then interstate agreements, the tribunal recognized various interstate agreements that specified how water from Godavari and its tributary could be utilized, ensuring equitable distribution among the states involved. Then regarding projects approvals, GWDT, it endorsed the construction of projects like Polavaram provided that they adhere to specified full reservoir levels and operational guidelines. Okay, all these issues have already been dealt by Godavari or Water Dispute Tribunal, but even then there are some issues. So why the Pollara project is criticized is because of its social and environmental impacts. First is, what will be the social impact of Pollara project? The project is expected to displace over 150,000 people across approximately 276 villages, with many of these being tribal communities. And for every 5 acres irrigated, one tribal family is projected to lose their land. Okay, so it is a negative implications of tribal there, and then it is going to have an infrastructure strain on the infrastructure. The project has faced funding challenges for rehabilitation efforts, leading to halted work on necessary infrastructure like canals, which could exacerbate social tensions among displaced populations. Okay, you are displacing a population from a particular region, and once you are replacing them, you have to provide rehabilitation also. Okay, the problem arises here. When you want to provide rehabilitation, you have to build them houses, you have to build them like roads, you have to build them toiletries, you have to build them other infrastructure. So the problem here is financial constraints in building infrastructure. Okay, and then environmental impact. So along with social impact, it also has environmental impact. That is, the dam's backwaters will submerge an estimated 3,731 hectares of forest land. The environmental impact assessments have raised concerns about ecosystem disruptions, including increased vulnerability to erosion and regional landslides. So it is not just the loss of environment, but also associated issues such as landslides and soil erosion. And how is the project being politically managed and administrated? Then, according to this, it has provided a national project status. It has been provided national project status. Declared a national project under Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act of 2014. The central government is responsible for executing the project while ensuring the compliance with environmental rehabilitation norms. Okay, this is very important. It has been declared as national project status, given the national project status under Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act 2024. So, since it is a national project, the responsibility of executing this project lies with central government. Then Polavaram Project Authority. There is a governing body which has been established to oversee project execution, comprising representatives from both states and central governments. This authority is tasked with ensuring timely execution and adherence to regulatory requirements. Okay, and apart from this, there is also a political dynamics. The political dynamics is project has become a focal point for regional politics, particularly as parties like BJD leverage oppositions against it to bolster their regional identity amidst changing political landscape like Odisha. Okay, so many of the times what happens here is these kind of regional issues become the identity for many of the state state political parties. In this case, BJD, it uses this issue for their advantage. Then, so what are the legal and regulatory challenges faced by Polavaram project? There is ongoing litigation, that is multiple states have challenged the project in the court on the grounds of inadequate environmental assessments and potential adverse impacts on their territories. Legal disputes have persisted since 2011, complicating project timelines. So it was supposed to be completed by 2015, but it has still been lagging. Then regulatory compliance losses. Environmental clearance for the project have been contentious, particularly following the changes of flood situation estimates that were not incorporated in the updated designs. Okay, this has raised questions about compliance with earlier environmental impact assessment conducted in 2005. There was EIA, environmental impact assessment, already done in 2005 only, but that impact assessment hasn't taken into the account of flood situation estimates. Okay, now because of new flood system estimates, there is criticism about 2005 environment impact assessment. Now there is a call for new environmental impact assessment which can take the flood situation estimation into consideration. Then there is also issues regarding funding challenges. Financial constraints have hindered progress on rehabilitation efforts for displaced populations, leading to further legal scrutiny regarding the compliance with social justice norms and commitments made during the project approval process. I already discussed this. So if you are replacing a person, you have to provide rehabilitation according to Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act. Okay, according to Rehabilitation Resettlement Act, you have to provide resettlement and rehabilitation for the people who have been replaced by projects like this. Okay, which has been not done by this case. Okay, so it is resulting in many legal disputes again under this Rehabilitation Resettlement Act. Okay, and then show what should be the way forward. There should be comprehensive impact assessment and mitigation, which will take into account environmental, social impact assessments, backwater studies, implementation of robust mitigation measures, etc., etc. And you should focus on strengthening interstate collaboration, meaning establish a transparent and inclusive mechanisms involving affected states, which will address the concerns, promote equitable resource sharing, and expedite the resource of legal and administrative challenges. All this should be taken into account. So these are the articles which are important from the mains perspective. Now we will see some two articles or two things which are important from prelims. So in prelims bits, we'll talk about Kawasaki disease. Why it is in news? Recently there was an article in some newspaper. I thought that it is very important. Not that the news is important, but the disease is important. So according to the news, there was comedian Manohar Faruqi. He said that he opened up about Kawasaki disease, which we had in the beginning. So that is not important for us. Now we will understand what is Kawasaki disease. Kawasaki disease, it is also known as Kawasaki syndrome or mucocutaneous lymph node syndrome. It is a rare disease that causes fever and inflammation of the blood vessels, mainly in children under 5 years of age. This is very important. Children of 5 years, under 5 years of age. Okay, it is impacting blood vessels. The disease was first described in the Japan by Tomisaku Kawasaki in 1967, and the first cases outside of Japan were reported in Hawaii in 1976, from Japan to Hawaii. The cause of Kawasaki disease is unknown. Okay, it is unknown, although more cases happen in late winter and early spring. So the study is still going on. It is one of the most common forms of acquired heart disease in children. Acquired heart disease in the sense it is by birth itself. Okay, and then the condition causes immune system to attack blood vessels, which becomes inflated and swollen. Okay, it is a immune disorder. You can also call it immune disorders. Here there is no outside pathogen which is attacking here. The condition, under this condition, the immune system attacks its own blood vessels. It attacks its own blood vessels, which will result in inflammation of blood vessels and swelling of blood vessels. When it is when it gets swollen, it will result in impacting the blood flow also. Okay, and what are the, and it tends to affect which areas are affected areas? It tends to affect coronary arteries, which are blood vessels which carry blood to the heart muscles. It can also cause problems in lymph nodes, skin, and the lining of the child's mouth, nose, and throat. Okay, all these places can be impacted by this one. Symptoms are Kawasaki disease can appear in 2 phases and may last in several weeks. What are the common symptoms? A high fever lasting more than 5 days, red eyes without discharge, a rash on the body, often in the chest and groin area, a swollen hands and feet, sometimes with the red dress, red cracked lips, and a swollen red tongue, swollen lymph nodes, and treatment is Kawasaki disease is usually treated in hospital with the intravenous dose of immunoglobulin IVIG antibiotics. The goal of treatment is to lower the fever, reduce the swelling, and prevent the heart disease. So we are not aware about source of the disease, whether it is a bacterial, whether it is viral, or whether it is protozoan, or whether it is fungal. Okay, we also don't know how it is caused, whether it is hereditary or whether it is genetic. Okay, so the disease is very mysterious, but what we know is it is acquired, meaning it is present in the child by birth. Okay, so that is what we know about Kawasaki disease. Okay, I think we discussed some 6 articles. That is enough for today. If there is any new articles which you need to be discussed, we can do that in the coming classes, because if the news analysis goes beyond 30 minutes or 40 minutes, when you don't feel like listening to it. So I understand the problem. If you have any other doubts, you can write in the comment box also. And if you think this news analysis session is helping you, and if you think you are gaining something out of this class, then please hit the like button and also comment on it and share with your friends. And if you are new to the channel, then subscribe to the channel and hit on the bell icon so that you don't miss a notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.